Hi, welcome to part two of this wide border that I've been working on. We did another video on marking it, and this video we're going to go over the sewing of it. And as you can see, I'm starting in one corner, and that is one of our wild swirls. It's a quarter of the actual square that it makes that I'm stitching. And I already did the dividing lines, that is just like a splitting that wide border into those triangles, which I don't have the video on. I'm sorry, don't really know what happened there, but it was just simply following along with my walking foot along the chalk lines of those dividing triangle lines. And I'm gonna just make my way across the bottom part of this border where we used the wild swirl stencil, and I used my traveling line along that seam between the pieced and the border part. So this is a really fun stencil. I have speeded up the filming there so you don't have to sit here and watch in real time. So it does make me look like I'm a pretty good quilter, but you know, I go a little slower and it doesn't matter because it's not a race. You just want to create something beautiful in the end. I was using a variegated thread. You can't really see it there, but it had greens in it. I wanted to contrast against the purple and still tie in with the pieced fabric. So I am just going to make my way down to the other side, traveling along that seam line. Here's the next one. And again, this is a fun pattern. It's really easy, even though it looks like it might not be. It's just one continuous line. You just follow the line wherever it leads you. Although I do have to do some backtracking, because if it was the actual stencil instead of a half of it, it would all be connected. But as you'll see, like when I get to this point, I have to catch that little part. I mean, I could leave it blank, but I don't. And now I'm on the other side of the border, and I'm going to do the petal star. And this has two parts. You either do the outside first and then the inside, or you can do the opposite. Do the inside first. There is no right or wrong way. And I just make my way along the line again, and when I get to the end, I travel over and do the inside. This is a really fun stencil too. So I made my way all the way to the end. Here's the last one, and what's left are those parallel lines. I got my ruler out, I got my correct foot on this time, and I'm just going to sew. I do a locking stitch at each end, and then I go back and cut the threads. What I realized though after doing this was it's just as easy just to use your walking foot, so I did switch to my walking foot. And of course, I don't have the video for that. I don't know what happened to it. Sorry about that, but we can all visualize using the walking foot and just going across those parallel lines as needed. Now I have the inside smaller section of this quilt to the right of the wide border marked already. I do show you how to mark it on the other side, but this one, it was already marked, and what I'm doing is I'm putting in some pins to just kind of keep the bottom where it needs to be. It's not that difficult to work with it to keep it all together, and being such a busy pattern, there's some places where I could have put a pin, I think I do, but in the bigger petals, you just don't really want to run into them and have to constantly be removing pins. So I strategically place them where they're out of the way and yet still are benefiting me as holding everything together. This is an optional thing. You could use a spray adhesive if you wanted to, or basting spray, that works good too. And as you can see, I used two different color chalks on this because that light fabric was just too light to see the white. So I switched between the pink and the white, which was a tough choice because now that's the white, it looks great. But the pink showed us up nice on the light blues, but then we get into the light pinks and it was a little more challenging. I didn't want to use a third color, so I just suffered through it. It was workable. but you know, a blue would have showed up nice. And this is actually, I can see it better than what you're looking at here on the video, but you can tell that was a difficult one. And now I am over at my machine and I'm starting at the bottom end. This is what I wanted to talk to you about because there is no right or wrong way, but I thought that this would be better to have all the chalked fabric coming towards me rather than sitting on my lap and going away from me. It I found it in a piece this complex a little bit challenging because I couldn't see as good. You might have a machine that you can see a little bit better, but I like to see where I'm going. And when I'm working with the pattern going through the machine from my lap, I can see more of it. And it just seemed a little easier. So I thought this would be easier, and that's why I did it the first trial run. But afterwards, I found that I'm going to reverse it. And so when I do the next 2 rows, or yeah, I think there's 2 more rows, on the wider section, I did the opposite. But I'm just plugging along, following this line, and it's fun. And it does get a little intense right in this area, but once you have your muscle memory for it, it's not that bad. Even on when I got to the pink on the pink, it was pretty difficult to see it. But by the time I was there, it was like, oh, I know where to go. And once a line is gone, it's gone. So nobody really can tell that you didn't do it exactly perfect. And it actually adds a little bit more character to your quilt because it's obvious that it was not a computer that did this quilting. It was a real person. So I'm just going to follow this along and go from one flower to the next. I want to let you in on a secret too. This is a trick of mine. Especially like right here. See me hesitate? Well, I kind of got lost. And so this pattern, it has 2 big flowers, 2 little flowers. So sometimes I don't know exactly where I'm at, which is why I will have next to me the stencil. And so it's very easy to look at the stencil and it's just so stark, white line there that I can immediately know where I am again and continue moving on. This stencil in particular is very helpful, but even on, more basic ones, just have it somewhere close by when you're sewing on your tabletop machine. I even use it on my long arm though too. I'll put it nearby just so I can glance over and make sure that I'm not making an assumption that I am somewhere without really knowing exactly where I am. So that's where you see me hesitate. And I could have cut that out, but you know what? I want you to understand that sometimes it is a little challenging and there's ways to work with it. And that's what I do with that stencil being right there. And then I just continue on my way, moving up along the pattern. I'm getting into the lighter fabric, so it is a little harder to see, although I could see much better than what you're looking at there. That light that comes out of the machine just whites out so much for the camera. And I can't turn it off because then I'll be lost. I need to see it, but I can see better than what it looks like there. Well, I have to apologize for the crazy mixed up order of things in this video. It's sad because I can't go back and redo it and I'm missing some footage. So here you see me. I wanted to show you the transferring of the stencil, and this is actually the last row. You can see in the video there to the left that that row has already been stitched, and I don't know what happened to that recording, so it's okay. You saw me sewing the other one. It's just a repeat of that, and now I'm putting in this last row, and it's super easy. I overlaid that part with the pink because I'm in that light strip of fabric. You can mix your chalks right on within your stencil. You do want to wipe them off. Like in that case, I wipe off that pink before I use the white on it again. And see, on the big flower, I used the white, so I'm not going to worry about it. But always make sure everything's all smoothed out too. I took out some pins because if you're pouncing your stencil over pins, it just doesn't work too well. You'll get a little cloud of chalk there, so make sure you can avoid that. I just lined up the registration marks, put the white on the dark, the pink on the light, and I'm going to fit in one more transfer. And it's in a tough color because it's in that light color pink, and it's actually very close to the pink chalk, so I used the white and that seemed to make it pop. But where they meet, that pink is on that darkest of the pink strip, so I am just going to overlay some white on that so that I can see it. And now I'm ready to sew this. I did go ahead and marked just a section and traveled from line to line where they were separated along the edge of the quilt. It looks more like a just wildflower art rather than two rows. You know, if I trimmed it, it just wouldn't lock together right. I'd rather cut down the middle of one of them, and that's what I did. And then I put on the binding, and this quilt found its home for now on the back of my couch, but I will be hanging it. I think it'll make a nice wall hanging. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this was a lot of fun for me to make, and maybe that's why I was so distracted in keeping track of all my footage and cards and batteries and everything that goes with that. And I just had fun sewing it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Helps keep our YouTube channel healthy. And thanks for watching.